And I'm not sure what to do next. I've just got this list that was written yesterday morning and expanded on, and now all that's crossed off and all of that's crossed off. So, examples of gameplay things on this list. Um, when the monsters turn to face your character, they turn around the long way a lot of the time when I thought that I had fixed that. After you undo, we should probably skip transition animations if we have a way of doing that. I need to figure that out. Um, there's editor problems that we were seeing yesterday about not all entities being destroyed on a save. I also noticed that not all entities are added to source control, so there's some very serious problem happening there that we are not catching. There's a gameplay bug about warriors pushing things in a chain. Not totally sure what to do about that. Um, Dragon Breath not being on when players are dead. Actually, actually, there's a thing right now where if any of the characters dies, you're not able to continue playing the level. And that's probably not right. You should probably let life go on when somebody dies. So I might do that. Oh, and there's the Mirage thing with the mirrors that we were working on for the past couple days, where those don't seem to dissolve. Let's work on those a little bit because those are fresh. Wow, nobody's typing any comments. Is anyone there? Is anyone there in chat? Please let me know if you're there. There's literally 0 chat messages. Oh, someone said they're here. Okay, lots of people are saying things. Great. It's just when there's exactly 0 messages, I get a little worried. Um, yeah. I think we do more Mirage work. Bunch of people are here. Great. I just don't trust Twitch, you know? Like it said about 100 people are logged in, but then I've certainly had my share of errors with that site. Let's put it that way. Okay. Let's make it so we start up into drafts again, and we'll compile and run. And what do we want? Okay, let me make this level. Oh, that's interesting. That works fine. Anyway, so one of the things I noticed, watch when I hit undo, all those inactive guys go into the animation where they cross their arms. That shouldn't happen. So that's a thing I want to fix today. But for now, I want to fix some more of this mirror stuff. All right, we did a lot of good work on this, but this walking laterally popping is kind of annoying. I guess, you know, I said yesterday that the Mirage fading is not working, but it is. It's just we're popping. And I believe that's a simple fix. So first, let's get all these other guys out of the way. Save 3 times to make sure we get them. All right. So now we've got this simple test case where we start up and there's this mirror and so forth. Let's get rid of the gem. Actually, no, because we might need that to power some things. Anyway. Okay, so what's happening is that we're taking a delta from the guy's visual position, remember, which is his interpolated thing, and his physical position, which is the gameplay thing, which is always in the center of a square. And the problem is that discontinuously changes when he crosses a square boundary, right? Whereas, really what we just want is the perpendicular distance from the line that these dots are along. And so if I just take the difference between his visual position and the mirror's visual position, I can use that to figure out the perpendicular component, and that's fine. Now maybe a similar thing is happening with the parallel component. Like, remember how I said there's sliding that seems to be happening sometimes? It might be that. Yeah, we can't do the same trick with the parallel component because it's a different length. It's a different length. But we can do that with the perpendicular component, and that might be. So let's go look at the code. Okay. All right. So remember, visual offset source is the guy's offset there. Do I use visual offset tar? All right. I need to visual. We need to do two different dots here. I think we do visual offset player from mirror and visual offset player from self. These are some long names. Well, okay, let me break the computation of these two quantities. So the parallel, I guess I'm gonna get super verbose. Maybe later we'll make these into more sane names. So then this visual offset source is going to turn into just e.visual position minus mirror.visual position. Another thing that I forgot is, of course, somebody else could be pushing the mirror while all this is happening, and the old code didn't account for that. We haven't tested that yet. So we're going to have to deal with that. So player from mirror dot, pairs player from mirror dot, perp is let's just say this. So that's the perp from the line. All right. We don't have mirror M, it's called M. Okay, visual offset player from mirror. I should just get rid of the words visual offset here. We'll keep them super long for now. Player from self perp equals visual offset source. I hope I didn't make a mistake because this is confusing. Bug. Pause reflected. Wait, this is player from mirror perp, not self. We don't need a player from self perp. What did I do all that for? All right, please work. Yeah, look at that. Don't you love it when it works the first time? That's years of linear algebra experience coming to the rescue. All right, and then, yeah, that's kind of reasonable, isn't it? It's kind of reasonable, isn't it? Okay. Now I hate to do this. I hate to screw up my party, but like I said, what happens if someone pushes the damn mirror, right? Okay, so hey, it works. Look at that. Whoop, whoop. I guess that. Maybe that's not right. What should? Okay, that didn't work. Oh, the parallel part doesn't account for pushing the mirror. Okay, we're going to need to deal with that. I don't know if I want to deal with that today, frankly, because things are pretty good. I'll put it on the list for later. Mirror push deal with situation. But I'm very happy to cross off we're making it better. We're getting to harder and or more and more obscure cases. That was there. Do we have multiple characters in multiple mirrors reflecting to the same spot, working being a thing? Multiple characters cannot reflect to the same spot unless they're the same character, in which case they combine. That works, yeah. So, I mean, we demoed this before, like. So, I can, whoops, I got to save a bunch of times because it doesn't always work. So, this guy can become two guys, right? And the two guys, well, if they go here, are just two guys again, right? Because they went to different places. But if they'll combine on the same spot, like right there, then they become one guy, right? But but not two different characters. Not right now. You could imagine that we might want to do that at some point. I don't know, but not right now. The animations are different on these guys somehow. I'll have to chase that down. Maybe it's just I'm looking at them from different angles. I don't know. You can play the game that this idea is based on already. There is a game by Alan Hazelden called Mirror Isles, and it's a very good game. Just search for it. Go right there. And it's, of course, a lower production value game, and it runs in a web browser. But oh, interesting. Anyway, there you go. You don't have to wait to experience the gameplay that I just showed. Of course, you just got spoiled on one of the cooler parts of the game, but that's fine. It's what you get for hanging out in my stream. There's spoilers. Okay, that's bad. Like, two fighter clones moving to the right. Yeah. There is code that does that, handles that case for the Bard, but yeah. So I want to do this animation thing. Let me go to like a more classic, like this level. Like he should just be in idle. Yeah, whoever's in inactive idle. Goes to active to inactive for some reason. Maybe it's just because we send the message if we're doing undo. Did I play this puzzle script game? A Kisho Tenketsu in the countryside. I have not played this. And I guess I'm pushing all these things to the targets, right? One assumes. Oh, I can't. Whoa, what? Okay. Interesting. I'll have to play this. What is that? What is that? Well, it's not a thing that I push that to. What the hell is going on here? It's like two different games all of a sudden. There's like a key in here. I got the key. And now I'm teleported back out. There's another key. Did that open a thing? That opened one of the things. I guess there's 4 keys. All right. No, I'm not going to play it, especially not off the stream here. I'm going to solve this. All right. How do I so the problem may be that there's no way the way we tell the animation system to go to the active or inactive state is by sending it a message, and it uses that message to decide where to go in the graph. But there's no provision in the graph to hard set things. So I'm just going to do that. So we're going to say if doing undo, then do something else, do this. Right? And we're just going to force it into this state. So we just say switch to node here. Okay, so the string version of this is just going to do that. Default node name. Destination name m.name return, otherwise switch to node m state node. There we go. Oh, is this in file scope? I need to tell people when something's in file scope. Default. It's not default node name, it's destination name. Destination name. All right. Oh. Still doing it. Still doing it, but let's go here. Damn it. Damn it. Let us see if this is happening at some time other than the time that I think it is. Okay, every time I hit undo, the wizard pops, and we're going to file open, file, graph, oh, animation, graph, send message. Okay, so we're just going to see when this happens. Okay, it happens from animate, which is just where I thought. Fucking, our LLVM debug info doesn't give the right line number, but it's going to be one of these, which we could tell by the message, default node name, and doing undo. False. Oh, we're in post undo reevaluate. Okay. Okay. Yes, always. With every version of Visual Studio, I've always said to do that. Why don't we learn? All right. Oops. Okay, it looks like it's not doing it. Although clones of each other should actually be active. So I'm going to write clones be active. And we'll work on that today. But first, let's go back to this non-clone situation. All right, so I'm going to move. I'm going to run back and forth. And the guy is not animation popping. And I'm doing this. And the guy's not animation popping. That's great. That is great. So doing. Where was that item on the list? Aha. It's going to be time to rewrite the list soon. Not too soon. Storing information about levels, objects, and their properties. Why would you use a database for that? That doesn't make any sense. Any bagged tea brands I'd recommend? Well, Bengal Spice, man, the best. Databases are designed for storing relational data that changes frequently at runtime, and that you need, and that you don't have very much information about, and that is large in volume. If you don't have millions of things, you don't need to put it in a database, okay? If your game has millions of levels, then, or even hundreds of thousands of levels, you've got an amazing value proposition for people, and go for it. Put that info in a database. But if your game has merely hundreds of levels, putting it in a database is weird. Oh, is that a sarcasm statement and not a serious statement? You store things in the database for initial load? What? What does that even mean? All right, I don't know what you're saying. I have never shipped a database in a game. It doesn't make any sense. You store things in a database for initial load. What is wrong with that? Well, it's going to be really slow compared to if you didn't store them in a database. How about that? And you're shipping a database, so that's a giant dependency that you'd rather not have. How about that? Yeah, I can't tell. So many people say stuff like that unsarcastically that I don't know if it's sarcasm or not. So there you go. And I don't know. I mean, that's a thing that some people might seriously believe is a good idea. I do not believe that's a good idea, but some people do, and that's just how that is. All right. Clones. Whoa, that was a weird graphical error right there. Wow. Why did that start happening? What is going on? This was working fine a second ago. Okay, whatever. That's so weird. Oh, it must be because I changed what I'm doing with the animator. And it's oh, I gotta remove that old print. Who says that? Oh, I gotta, yeah, this has gotta change actually. Let's leave that. Yeah, I mean it's fine. He's allowed to have his opinion. Lots of games ship with SQL Lite. Really? Like what? Who uses that to store game assets? I literally don't know any, but I'm sure somebody does. Yeah, I'm not angry. I it just you're saying stuff that doesn't make sense to me. Like I don't understand. I literally don't understand what you need a database for. And so that's all. That's all. Android is packaged with SQLite, so there it is a much easier thing. Okay. I mean, that maybe doesn't make it a good idea, but sure, I could see how if it's easier, people would end up just using it. Pretty sure World of Warcraft uses databases to organize its assets, but they do have a crap ton of data. Uh, that still doesn't make sense to me. Um, I mean, for an MMO, you want to use a database on the back end because you do have a problem of, uniquely synchronizing data updates and queries from many players across many shards of a world and stuff, and you want to avoid goofs like object duplication and so forth. So I could see using a package database for the server part. Um, I don't think I would do that, but I could see that. For the client, I don't buy it. It doesn't seem like the right decision. That doesn't mean they didn't do it. I don't think it's the right decision for a client. You could see a use case for a game like Skyrim that has a stored location and state of thousands, millions of objects. No, because for something like Skyrim, if it's not Skyrim Online, if it's just regular Skyrim, you don't need a database. It's just a data structure. It's just like an octree or something, right? Um, you don't have to. The whole reason that databases exist is because synchronizing distributed modifications and updates is difficult. And if you do it naively, It'll either be wrong or it'll be very, very, very slow, right? So, well, and then the second reason, of course, is to perform arbitrary queries on the data where you didn't know in advance what people were going to ask about the data, right? Neither of those is the case for a 3D game, right? Especially a single player game. So you're loading all these assets. It doesn't matter if there's thousands or millions of assets, right? First of all, even if you're changing them in some way, like the player's picking up a sword in Skyrim and dropping it in some other room, it's a local update. You don't have to synchronize or coordinate with a networked agent in order to drop that object. It's just somewhere in your own local data structure. So that's very fast and very simple. It doesn't matter, right? And then secondly, when it comes to assets like texture maps and sound effects and all that, you know exactly what you want to do with them. You're not content addressing a sound effect. You're just playing it by asset tag. That's 99.999% of what single players do. You don't need a database for those things. It doesn't make any sense. Which again is not to say that people don't do that sometimes, but I would say that if people do it, it's the wrong technical decision and it will result in low performance and overly complex code. Because that's not what databases are for. You might as well say that when I compile a program here, because there's lots of names cross-referencing other names, maybe the executable should just be a database so it can look up all the names. It kind of makes sense if you hand wave a lot, but if you actually understand what the executable needs to do, it doesn't make any sense at all. What would I do for storage instead of a database for an MMO? Well, I would probably write my own database for an MMO, right? I probably wouldn't, like if you mean synchronizing the state of the world and the player accounts and all that, again, it's their network resources and people are playing them sharded and instanced and all that. And so, yes, you do need to have a database equivalent at that point, but I would write my own. I wouldn't use an off-the-shelf database simply because, again, the set of queries that you're going to do that need to be fast is very limited. And you know what they are in advance, and you can just hard code something for that, and it'll be a lot faster than a commercial database or whatever, open source equivalent, right? Because that open source equivalent doesn't know what your query is going to be in advance exactly. And you do. So you have a tremendous advantage. Do I know what was causing that graphical glitch? No, I'm going to write it down. I mean, it's pretty obviously like somehow I'm drawing the vertex buffer before it's filled the first time or something. Like maybe I'm doing graphical steps in the wrong order so that the first frame when we create an entity, the vertex buffer is not filled and then later it's filled. Or actually, maybe it's, yeah, I don't know. I don't have an explanation. What I just said doesn't quite seem right, so I'm just writing down VB wrong on clone creation frame. I'm not sure. So obviously we weren't seeing that before I made that animation change. So it's more than one frame, actually. It's like for a duration of n frames. So something is happening. Something is happening that is not right. Like we're not. I don't know. I don't know. So that's on the list to debug. But because I'm tired and I did a demo and stuff, I want to do something easier. Like in the case where there's clones here, the clone should not be inactive. because they're essentially the same guy. So I want to fix that. What's the weirdest thing I've ever seen a piece of code do? I don't know, man. There's been some weird stuff. There's been some weird stuff. Yeah. All right. So didn't I just... Okay. So if it's the hero or... Okay. If it's the hero or... So I think there's a thing called clone of ID. Oh no. How do we know? How do we know what you're a clone of? If we don't have clone of ID anymore. What did I do? Well, let's look. Oh, it must just be... It must be in the base entity, because monsters and stuff can have it. Yeah, so I moved it from guy to the base entity. So it dot clone of ID is equal to hero ID, or it dot clone of ID is equal to hero clone of ID. Okay, well that's a mouthful, but it works. Look at that, they're both active, even after undo. Let's just keep making dudes. We know how to party here. Whoops. You know, I want to make a level where you just have to clone yourself a bunch of times. Right? Let's do that. Let me first make sure that I didn't screw up this when we have multiple guys. Okay, so this guy is still, these guys still go into active or inactive. And let's do some level design. me check this in. Clones be active. I hope I didn't get the database dude so mad that he wanted to leave. Like, I really, I mean, I don't mean to be mean about that stuff. It's just sometimes people espouse ways of making games that are so much in the direction that I think is wrong that when I express my opinion about them, it just comes out very direct. And that's just how it is. All right. You decided I have to use Oracle. That's totally going to happen. That is totally going to happen. All right, so wait, wouldn't I have already, I feel like I must have already made a level like this. I guess not. Let me see. These are the playable new levels. Right, so yeah. All right. So this one is just going to be ridiculous. We're going to save as be fruitful. And it's just going to be like, okay, bro. Oh, geez. Right, so we have this thing where the floor extends up. So I've got to flag these as invisible. So, wait, what? What happened? Oh, I copied the wrong thing is what happened. Okay. And then, I don't know, I'll make you, well, let's just start with the mirrors here, and then we can make you have to figure out how to do the mirrors. Oh, I've got to put this is a new level name. So I've got to put it in all right. Whoops. Whoa, okay. The rule right now is if all of the characters are on a platform, really what it should be is that all the platforms have to be occupied. And that'll help us. I don't think I wrote this down, but play after death, right? I said that a character death probably shouldn't freeze the game anymore. And so, yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to do a let people play after death as well. So let's first we've got to change the victory condition. I mean, unless we want to make levels where like there's 2 exits and you could get to either one. But maybe that's not how it is. Royale with cheese. Why isn't someone made Battle Royale with cheese? I would play that. It could be like the new Interstate 76 franchise game. I'd tweet about that because I like that so much. I don't know how many people are going to get the joke because not that many people probably remember Pulp Fiction that well. But there you go. Everyone knows the line. Well, dude, that movie came out when I was in college. Okay, Pulp Fiction's like from 1991, right? It's 2018. There are many people on this stream probably who were not alive when that movie came out. As scary as that is to me, and if they were not alive when it came out, what are the chances are that they've actually seen it, much less hold it in as high esteem as we did back in the day? Thoughts on Ready Player One? I don't know. I have never read Ready Player One. It just doesn't interest me. I don't know why. But I don't know because I haven't read it. Maybe if I read it, I would love it. I don't know. Yeah. Someone saying they weren't alive for Pulp Fiction and also haven't seen it. You should see it. There's some stuff in that movie. I kind of feel like there would be a social justice outrage about that movie if it were released today. I'm thinking of certain specific scenes. Oh my God. Okay. Have I seen In Bruges? No, I haven't seen In Bruges. Yeah, people say it's a good movie. Pointless slur scene number 33435. Royale with cheese. Someone linked Royale with cheese.
You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese? They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese. They get the Menchie's or something. It was on the fucking quarter pounder grits. What do they call it? They call it Royale with cheese. Royale with cheese. What do they call a Big Mac? Big Mac's a Big Mac, but they call it Le Big Mac. What do they call it? Wow. I don't know. I didn't go to Burger King.
I don't know. I didn't go into Burger King. I haven't seen Tarantino's latest movies now. I've been kind of meaning to, but I haven't. All right. Okay, I feel like B multiply has to be several levels, or at least two levels. Okay, first let's change the victory condition. Check for victory. Four guys. Instead of all on doors, we want all doors occupied. All right. For, we're going to say unoccupied doors right, and the allocator is temp, and then for manager.by type.door, right, add unoccupied doors. So we're just gonna put all the doors, right, and then array unordered, remove unoccupied doors. If door, doors, door. All right. If we're not all on doors, return if unoccupied doors return. We can say that now that arrays cast to bool. All right. There we go. So, okay, let's make a be fruitful 2. We're going to go back to this one. This one, I guess mirror aisles. You know what? Mirror aisles already does the small number of guys. So I'm just going to, well, okay. I need to test this. So let's just say, for now, there's 2. And we go here, and we're the wrong distance. Oh wait, there's 3, because I didn't save enough times. There we go. Okay, so we go here, and now we need to make enough spacing for us to get, well, I have this notch here, so that's fine. That didn't work. Well, let's just see if that works. And to speed up testing, we're just going to put these guys right where you end up. So like, that would solve the level. All right. So let's compile. Three door, where's the other door? Maybe there's just an extra X3 door. Oh, you know, back, there we go. There we go. That was the problem. All right. Reset. It's still there. Oh, I didn't save enough times because our save is unreliable. Reset. There we go. We won. Okay. So now, let's put them here, and let's get rid of these. Like, I should just be able to win this because there's 2 mirrors. Saved like 5 times. All right, 2 mirrors, and well, so let's make sure this doesn't work, by the way. Right, because we have a guy left behind. No man left behind, so that's good. So let's undo to back to when we only had 2 characters. All right. So now I got to use these mirrors to get more distance, which should be now this is kind of interesting all of a sudden, right? Like I can't actually do what I expected to be able to do. There's no asymmetry in the level. I want to push these mirrors apart in some way. So I got to do, oh, no, I could do this. Okay, so that's fine. That's not that hard to solve, but it's cool. Okay, so I have 2 guys, and whoops, one more. So that will put the right horizontal distance between us, and then we go. All right. Maybe that's just a review level, right? Be Fruitful 1 is just a review level. And then Be Fruitful 2 is the Insano Bananas one. So let's get rid of all the things here. And let's see if I can even solve this. Because God only knows. Whoops. Delete. All right. Boom. Boom. 4. 5. 6. Wait. Still 6. Because, yeah. I need number 7. I don't want to pack my guys too much in the wrong configuration here. Seven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So this might be ridiculous. Like, God only knows how I'm going to do this. I'm just going to shove that guy in the corner. Okay. How am I going to do this? Well, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Okay, I've got 2 guys good there. So let's get a 3rd guy. There we go. Check that shit out. Now I've got 3 guys. And okay, I want this guy up and to the right of where he is now. Oh, maybe I don't want that. So the problem is this guy down here is way too far. Let me do this. Okay, so now it's funny because that mirror that I wanted to discard is now sitting in the corner. Maybe I should have pushed it into the other corner initially. I don't know. So I want one of these guys. So this guy here, actually no, this guy, I want him to be one up and one to the right, which is hard. But this guy wants to be one up and one to the left to get on that middle square, and that's, oh shoot, that's easy. Sorry, that's easy, but I got to move the mirror a little first. Don't mind the janky animations of the guys sinking in the floor. That's like our placeholder for. Oh boy, maybe I made it harder. Okay, we got 4. Except I just had that screw up where the clone bumped into the other clone, so that's not good. This is going to be a little bit interesting. Oh yeah, so the puzzle's kind of broken right now. Like Like, these guys all should have moved, but they didn't. Let's actually work on that. Let's work on that, because this is the impetus right now to make that work correctly. It breaks the puzzle otherwise. Will undo be a command available to players? Yes. This game will require copious use of undo to solve, probably, unless you're amazing and perfect. Let's do the easy things first, though. Easy things first. Let's start on, I want to be able to play after death. Oh God, this doesn't work. I just said all doors have to be occupied. Oh, of course that should work. But this is the overworld. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a special thing where doors are marked mandatory. If they're marked mandatory, they all have to be filled, otherwise they won't have to be filled all. And they'll have different visual representations eventually, but yeah. Okay, so for unoccupied doors, if it dot mandatory return. So, you know, if any mandatory door is unoccupied, we return. That's great. So now we go into door, we bump the version number, and we say mandatory false. That's it. Whoa, what? Oh, that didn't exist until version 3. All right, so here, I'm going to color these doors like a different color just to remind me that they're mandatory. No, that didn't. Black, white. And actually, I kind of want, I don't have another mesh available for these. So we're just going to have to remember that mandatory is a thing. I don't know what, it's going to do that for now. Oh wait, I didn't actually set the mandatory flag. Mandatory. Mandatory. And color And okay, so now I should be able to go to the overworld and go into this level. Yeah, so that works now. Bothers me that he turns the long way around, man. Okay, what was I doing? Um, oh, letting you play after a character died. So, right. So this is a good level for that. Let me save though. Doors have a mandatory flag. Add to new rough draft flows. Can you use double cover for that? Maybe, but I probably wouldn't do it in quaternion space anyway. Because right now, it's just a 2D angle that we're converting to a quaternion later. Later on, if we do more involved IK for the monster, it's going to be like some combination of the head rotation if it's a small rotation and the body if it's a bigger rotation. So at that point, you're not using quaternion anything. I mean, except as your rotation representation, sorry. So that's not a place where I would get tweaky with math. But it's a good question. Casey probably would try to use quaternion double cover for that, but you know. All right. So I'm going to start up in Heroes 2. And I want to find the place where we see if someone is dead. So enact next buffered move. Where does that get called from? Really? So maybe we just don't call simulate. Well, let's play until someone is dead, and then break and simulate Sokoban and see what we're not running. Oh, I didn't recompile. It's fine, I'll walk there. All right. Whoops. We evaluate Dragon Breath after Dragon Breath, so that's... Yeah. Okay, well that works though. That'll kill a player. All right. That'll kill a player. Dragon Breath should not trigger more breath. Like, that's a weird one. Yeah, the gameplay depends on that not happening. I need to figure that out. All right. But we don't need to figure that out right now. We need to figure out why wait, is that, I guess that's in simulate, obviously. What is this dumb window? I don't want you there ever. All right, simulate. We're in here. Oh, maybe we just don't add to buffered moves. Any player is dead. There we go. That's it. All right. So let's see what happens if we just don't set that. Wait, did I not? Oh no, I can still play. It's just, I think there's something weird about the turn order. Like, if I'm stuck on a dead player, then what should happen? I mean, I should be able to switch my turn order to the next guy. So what happened was, so Wizard is after Thief. So if I move Thief, and then switch to Wizard before Thief dies, then I'm fine. But if Thief dies first, then I can't switch. And the reason is because the turn order thing is looking for who I'm currently on to figure out who to swap to next, and etc. So turn order Okay. So this filters out dead people, probably. Maybe. Or... Wait, how... I want to look at how we do... okay, we don't have a gameplay key map yet. So it's just literally... you press C and we call switch heroes. All right, so where's switch heroes? Do not switch if anyone is dead. Well, okay. While true, hero ID manager to turn order get, is it called get hero? No. Get the player. Get the player. If all right. Let's see. Right. 3 guys. So we can still play even though the thief is dead. Now in the victory, since we used to not have to check if someone is dead for victory. Oh, but we're setting all on doors if he's dead. Yeah. All right, so that's pretty good. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I should make them wiggle if you're trying to move them and they're dead. Okay. So that's great. Actually, let me test this level. So the funny thing about this level, of course, is that here the thief just goes and kills himself. Well, I want to get into a situation where I guess I can't really kill one character here. Okay. Let's get a multi-character situation and get one of them to the exit. So this guy is going to die, and this girl is going to go. Yeah, she can't win without him. She's going to say, if you go to the door and he's dead, she'll say, I can't leave without my buddy Superfly. All right. God, it totally doesn't add all this stuff to source control. I don't know what's going on there. Gonna have to fix that. Any questions or what's going on in chat? I'm not sure whether to take a break and end the stream or go on to the next thing, which is well, let me, yeah. The next thing might be fixing the clone movement situation. I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff to do. There's a bunch of stuff to do. You're memeing. That's exciting. What doesn't it add to source control? When you edit a level, it's supposed to place all the entities that you add as separate files into source control. Right now it creates the files, but they don't seem to consistently get added, and that is problematic. Did I see there's a paper about the Turing completeness of Braid? Yeah, I saw that. It seems weird because a lot of games are Turing complete, so I'm not sure why Braid would be special in that regard, but it was probably just someone who liked the game and wanted to write a paper, so I have no argument there. How much code base do the various Sokoban games share? It's one game. It's not separate programs. It's one game. That is the point. Why is level saving unreliable at the moment? I don't know because I haven't debugged it. It might be something wrong in the application code. It might be that we're running a subversion command and that's been messed up because maybe, you know, I changed the way that we execute commands recently. So maybe that broke it, or maybe it was broken before that and I just didn't notice. Maybe it's broken only on this machine because I'm not doing something that I should. I don't know. What is the reasoning behind your decision to make everything in the witness operate so slowly? Platforms, doors, lasers, etc. Sometimes there's gameplay reasons. So for some of the platforms, you need to be able to do things while they're going. And we didn't want to make that an action challenge. So there's that. Also, though, it's a meditative game, and you're supposed to know what you're doing. So having things be slow is good. And for stuff like the lasers, well, let's put it this way. It's not a game, how do I say it? I don't want to say coddling the player because that's not the right thing, but there's this customer service attitude that a lot of players have where it's like, the job of this game, I paid my money, and the job of this game is to please me right now, and I want it to X and Y and Z. And this game is not made with that mindset, right? And so games and people, but games as well, communicate what they expect the relationship to be. And, if we made the lasers really fast because we just wanted to satisfy players' like animal expectancy that they want things to happen now, that communicates the relationship between the game and the player to be something that I don't feel like it should be, right? So, but also it just felt good to make something slow like that because most games don't do it that way. Because it has more gravitas, especially the first time you set this thing off and you're like, what the hell is it doing, right? There's a lot of reasons. Usually when I make a decision like that, there's not one reason. There's a lot of reasons and they come together. Maxwell Perlman made something like the various interactions. I'm not sure what you mean, but the interactions, they're certainly programmed in. Do you mean what percentage of the code is the interactions? I honestly don't know. It's not very much because making a 3D game is a lot of code in itself. Kobe said, I can't beat this puzzle yet, though. Yeah, it's funny how puzzles look like they should be easy sometimes, and yet they're not. That was one of the great things about this game. Although, let me see if I remember the solution to this one. Boom, boom. Yeah, honestly, it's a pretty easy puzzle once you get it, but it can seem hard. It seems hard in context. Let me put it that way. Once you see the answer, you'll be like, oh my God, how did I not get it? But yeah. In the No Clip documentary, you talked about the first company you started. I was wondering how it was funding it. We had savings that we lived off of, and then we lived off of my friend and business partner's credit card, which ended up being stressful for him. It's probably a bad idea to go that much into debt. He went $100,000 into debt back in the late 90s when that was real money. So it was a lot. We didn't end like we when we shut down the company. I don't think we were 100,000 in debt, but we were in debt. The peak of how much we were in debt at worst was $100,000. How could it be said that using reward mechanisms to make players solve puzzles be a right thing to do? I don't know, but people say that all the time. Most puzzle designers think that's their job, so ask them. Don't ask me. How did you get the funding for Braid? Just small contracts. Yeah, I saved up for some time. Um, But I ran out of money in the middle of making braids, so I didn't save up enough. How do I feel about people torrenting my games? I mean, it kind of sucks. It endangers our survival as a developer. We're not madly rich by any means, and so, if the next games don't sell, we probably go out of business. That's just how it is. So, um, you know, I'm glad that people torrenting the games get to play games that I worked hard on, but it's sad that they're not supporting the development of the game. Sometimes they can't support the development of the game, and that's fine, but if you look at the numbers of how many people pirate, a lot of those people could pitch in, and if they did, it would drastically change the survivability of the company. So I don't feel that good about it, no. Um, but sometimes, so you know, I understand how it is to be a kid and like not really have money of your own, although maybe it's not that way these days, but like I couldn't really buy games when I was a kid, so I understand pirating from that standpoint. Um, I don't know. But I don't think it's good. That's all I'm saying. It's not good. I understand it in limited cases, but I still don't think it's good. Was Tarkovsky a big source of inspiration for you in making The Witness? I would say important, but in a circumscribed way. Like, I was not super familiar with many of his movies when I designed the game initially, right? But the development took a long time, so I watched many of his films during development. I would say his favorite movie of mine is Stalker. Um, I like Andrei Rublev as well. I'm in the middle of rewatching that right now. Um, those are probably my two favorite. I mean, nostalgia is the one that's actually, I have to say, nostalgia is one of the favorites because that's the one that's in the game. So there's that. Um, have I played Slay the Spire? No, I don't know what that is. Did I ever play the Stalker games? I played the original Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. Um, I hadn't seen the film Stalker back then, and I didn't for some time, but in retrospect, I really have no idea what the game has to do with the movie, which is probably why it's acronymed. It's just like the game really has nothing whatsoever to do with the movie, except I think they call the area the zone in the game, right? But um, the zone in the game is a place where dudes run around with guns and have psionic battles and stuff. It's not what the movie's about. Do I play Go? I like Go very much. I don't play it regularly, and I'm not that good at it because I haven't played it much. Both movie and games are based on a novel. All right, okay, that makes more sense then. Have I played Rhyme? No, I have not played Rhyme. I'm learning about game engine development at university right now. Are there bad programming practices I should watch out for? Yes, aka most things they will teach you about how to program. Um, Let me put it this way. Most of the ideas that you're told in university about things to avoid, like what kinds of programming causes bugs and there and so forth, often those statements are correct, at least to a limited degree, often to a large degree. The solutions they will offer, or the ways that they tell you to program in order to not make those problems, those solutions are probably not right. They almost never are. So be careful what you believe. Have I watched Andrei Rublev? Yeah, I just mentioned that. Thoughts of games being considered art forms. I don't understand like why there's any question or argument about that. Like I design games the same way that I would write a short fiction story or something. Not the same way because a game is a different thing, but like with the same attitude. Like how is it possible to even think of one as art and the other one not? It doesn't make any sense. It's the same activity. So people who have a question about that just don't really understand the making of these things. Or their examples of games are just too much from commercial games, right? But if your examples of people making video was all tampon ads, then maybe you would think that wasn't art either. But of course, video and movies and all that certainly can be art. So, yeah. Ever design a tabletop game? No, not really. Thoughts on the difference in design testing processes? I don't know. I've never made a tabletop game. Has anyone approached you about a film adaptation of your game work? Yes, a number of people have. However, nobody seriously that I've ever seen. The inquiries that we get are from like these weird third parties that are part of the like the bottom of the Hollywood ecosystem where they go out and preemptively sign deals for IPs at very low rates because nobody specifically wants to offer that movie, or nobody specifically is thinking of actually making that movie, but they're building a portfolio of things that they have the IP for, the movie rights to the IP for, I mean, and then they go pitch those to studios and try to get the studios to bite. And then when the studios bite, they have a valuable asset and they haven't paid the developer very much for that asset, so they profit. As nearly as I can tell, everybody who has talked to me about making something has been that kind of deal, and it doesn't seem good. The reverse thing happens too, where a movie or a TV studio or something wants to talk to us because we're a game developer and they want to make games of their, media IPs or something, and we don't do that, so we don't chase that kind of thing. Um, that's it. Opinion on Super Mario Maker. I have not played it. I have no opinion on Super Mario Maker. Yeah, 100K lines of code isn't that big. Like the compiler is 45K right now, and I've been trying hard, or 40K. I've been trying hard to keep it super small, and that's not counting white spaces and whatever, right? And I wrote the vast majority of the compiler. Braid is 60K, not counting white spaces and comments, and I wrote the vast majority of that as one person, right? So two people can do 100K pretty easily. Um, I mean, I could do 100K pretty easily if I was working on something easier and wasn't trying. Actually, if you put the Sokoban game and the compiler together, that's easily 100K, and I wrote the vast majority of both of those. So there you go. Am I into D&D or RPGs? Not lately. Have I made art in any other mediums besides games? I used to write short stories, and I got a couple published. How's naming games work for you? I mean, I just have an idea for the name of the game that fits. There's not a system to how I do it. It's just I have an opinion what the name should be. Usually I just know what the name is. For this game, for the Sokoban game, I don't actually know what the name is yet, which is why I call it the Sokoban game. Um, it's that's funny. It's a different thing because the creative process behind this game is different in a way I don't want to announce, but that people may have been able to deduce by watching the streams. So maybe that's why I don't know the name yet, because the creativity comes from a different place in a different way. For games like Braid and The Witness, I knew what the name was as part of the initial idea of the game. I just knew. So that doesn't really help you that much, probably. Oh, you beat that puzzle. All right. Do you see what I'm saying about how it's hard in context, right? It's hard because of the assumptions that you carry over from the previous puzzle, right? And a little bit because the colors imply a certain kind of solution when in fact, if there were more colors in that puzzle, it would be easier, right? Let me put it that way. What do I generally do in my free time besides PUBG? I read, I listen to podcasts, and I go dancing a lot. That's the usual things that I do. Will I ever reveal the pseudonym that you wrote those books under? They were short stories, not books, so they were much shorter. And I don't know. I don't want to these days. Do I do much assembly coding? Nope, hardly ever. Do I think it's possible for someone to create a game without any prior programming experience? Yes. With Indie Fund, one of the first teams we funded who made this game called Cube, Qube, I believe they had no programmers on their team, and they just used blueprints in Unreal Engine, or whatever the version was of blueprints back then. And, the game had some technical things that would have been better if they had a programmer, but they were able to make a commercial game and sell it on Steam without a programmer. That all worked fine. Puzzle Game 3. Yeah, no, Game 3 is a different game. Is there a way I can get my hands on the spectacular texture for that wooden flower board thing in The Witness? I want to do a little fan craft project. I don't know which object in the game you mean. Wooden flower board thing. That's not popping an idea into my head. How about making a small Steam-like platform that would publish puzzle games that would help promote kinds of games that aren't usually popular? I just have a lot going on. Making an online distribution thing is probably not a high priority for me right now. What's the most egregious example of university programming / design? It probably changes with every school and, whatever. I think a lot of schools still teach that object-oriented programming, not even in the Alan Kay sense, which was the original sense, but in the C++ sense, they still kind of preach that that's the solution to everything. A lot of schools do that. And especially places in South America or Europe, even more so than in America, in the USA. So, yeah. Do I dance to hard style? I don't know what hard style is, but probably not. You played Cube when Desero was still around. Okay, yeah. In Braid and the Witness, there was a puzzle that takes a lot of time to complete. Why do you make such puzzles? I mean, I've spoken in interviews at length about how the puzzles are designed, and I don't want to go into it again, but I'll just say if you understand the basic philosophy behind where the puzzles come from and where the ideas in the puzzles come from, I think that question answers itself, right? It only even makes sense as a question if you come at it from the standpoint of like, oh, that's so weird, games don't usually do that. But if you understand, I do lots of things that games don't usually do, and that's just one of them. And so, yeah, it's not that unusual or out of the way to me. You tweeted several times about how crowded the market is. Are you anxious that your games will drown in the influx of indie games? It's always a possibility. I think I have an advantage that people know my previous games and are interested in more things that I've helped work on. So that's good. But I think we've also seen that that's not a guarantee that when your game comes out, people will buy it, right? So I think we have a leg up over unknown people who are releasing their first game, but it's by no means a guarantee that a game won't just totally disappear, right? We have to consider that as a possibility at all times. In the desert reflection texture, what? A wooden flower board in the desert reflection texture? Wait, what? I don't know. I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry. I just don't know. Did I ever feel like I know too much to not attempt a technical game dev venture but not know enough to necessarily complete it? No. No. What was the origin genesis of the textures in the castle and the witness? I'm scratching my head over how they fit in with everything else. I mean, they're not just in the castle, they're around various parts of the game. I don't know. I don't want to say things like that. Did I expect The Witness to be profitable? I hoped it would be profitable, yes. If so, how long did you think it would take? I don't know. You recall me saying it took about a week or so. Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. I had a range of what I thought might happen, and we landed toward the good end of that range. So I'm very happy with how it turned out. Um, oh, I see. Um, yeah, I don't know. Send an email to that programming language address, and we'll figure out what texture that is and send it to you. Yeah, sorry. There's so much stuff in the desert that I forget sometimes. When you said like flower board, I was thinking of wood, and that's of course metal. So, I mean, I assume it's metal. I assume it's a plate of Corten steel. It's on some boards, right? It's sitting on some boards, but the plate itself is metal. Why did I start streaming so much all of a sudden? I don't know. I just like doing it, but it's also tiring. So maybe I'll stop doing it for a while. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep doing it. It's just if I feel like streaming, I stream. Have I always been well spoken and comfortable in front of a camera? No, I mean, it comes from practice, really. I mean, not that I'm not that well spoken compared to people who like publicly speak for a living, right? When I go and give a speech or something, it's a side thing that I do aside from my regular work. So, you know, if you ever go see someone who speaks for a living, they're really good at it. It's a different league. Have my larger projects required going into greater debt before resurfacing? I don't know what you mean by resurfacing, but yeah, both Braden and The Witness, we had a development budget going in. We ran out of that money and had to borrow some to complete the game for both games. If The Witness did so well financially, how come we're not seeing more games of a similar genre and scope scale? I know from puzzle magazines the cost of creating custom grid-based puzzles is mostly quite low, and game dev folks are great at creating environments. Okay, first of all, the hard part of The Witness was not making grid-based puzzles. It was about making every puzzle in the world have an idea and matter and be interlocked with everything else. So if you made a game just the size of The Witness that just had some grid puzzles around it, I don't think it would be that good. Also, having an open world engine that runs that smoothly is not that easy. Um, but also, if you're going to clone a game, why would you clone The Witness when you can clone something that made much more money, right? I mean, The Witness was profitable, but it wasn't Minecraft and it wasn't PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, right? So if you're in the business to make money rather than be creative, you're not going to clone an art game. You're going to clone Call of Duty or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds or one of these crappy iOS games that I don't know what they are lately. It doesn't make sense to clone an experimental art game as profit motive. Any opinions on the future of the games industry? Do you feel as if it might get hard to compete with studios making games with higher standards as game tech's more advanced? Yes. Budgets are going up even for independent developers, and every time that happens, it creates a death spiral where the majority of developers go out of business and die. And I think that is probably happening to developers in the class that I'm in, of the company size that we are, which is around 10 people or whatever. That's happening right now. So we have got to be tough and resourceful to survive that. And then we'll see what happens later. But I don't know. Predicting the future is hard. What are some of my favorite podcast series? It depends. I've gone back and forth between a few things. I used to listen to 99% Invisible a lot. I like that. I like Waking Up with Sam Harris a lot. Usually, sometimes it gets kind of pointless. But a lot of his podcasts are really nice. I don't know. Witness puzzle design time versus engine development time. I don't really know. You'd have to also add gameplay code development time, which is its own thing that you would have to do whether it was your own engine or not. And I really don't know what the proportions are there.
What do you think of the panel? The panel is.
Someone linked me a video.
This. Looks like. I need to go to the toilet. What do you think of the panel?
Yeah, that's nice. I actually haven't seen very many videos of people doing that because I don't actively look for that kind of material. Um, but that's nice. Spoilers. If anyone hasn't played The Witness, don't click on that video. Can I talk about the development for iOS and the process of releasing your game on that platform? That is way too broad a question. You'd have to be more specific because it's a very that encompasses all forms of game development. You know, we did like almost a year of work on the game to release it on iOS, so it's big. Maybe it's just a similar color to the wood, but to reflect specularly like that, I don't know. Maybe it could be wood. I mean, it's brown. I don't know, but yeah, we can get you that texture. What do I think needs to happen for the web not to suck? WebAssembly looks promising, but it might just go the way of applets. I don't think the web is not going to suck for a long time. It just needs, like, WebAssembly might help a little, but the fundamental problem is deeper than that. And I don't know. Am I proud of my work? Well, yeah, I mean, pride is weird. Pride is not really a feeling that I ever have felt. It's just not part of my personality, but uh, do I um, do I believe that what I've made is good, and am I glad that I did it? Yes, yes, for sure. I guess I've had pride in the very negative personality sense of like being a little too haughty sometimes um, about but I've been fortunate enough the few times that I can think of when I would say something that's a little bit presumptuous like that. I've been fortunate enough to be corrected on that by people who I respect. So yeah, but like pride in the sense of like I'm proud of what I made. It's not really a feeling that I ever have. Is Braid named after Gödel Escherbach? A little bit. I actually answered that question in in more length in Austria a few months ago. You could search for that video on YouTube. It's uh, it's in Graz, Austria. And remember that players have not yet discovered final secret in the witness. Have we done it now? I don't think I ever mentioned any specific final secret. I just said, in fact, I don't even know if people have, quote, discovered everything because I don't pay that much attention. Um, how do you manage your happiness and the drive to produce? Um, well, those things are not in conflict for me. Like happiness and drive to produce don't fight each other. I'm happy when I produce things. So the question is a little bit weird to me. Like I'm not a big believer in work-life balance, right? I've said that before. Jackson Pollock programming. That's a good. I like that analogy. Um, so definitely, I do need to manage my happiness a little bit, but I do it just by trying to tune into how I feel and what would be nice to do lately. And it's hard sometimes. Like sometimes in game development is rough. It's rougher than people who don't make games think by a lot, and it can get very psychologically hard in the middle. And I've worked on skills to deal with that, but even so, it gets difficult. And I just try to get through those times, you know. And now that I've done it a couple of times on big projects, um, it gets easier because you know there's a way out when things are rough because you've gotten out before. Maybe make the camera bigger for Q&A times. Yeah, maybe. Do I feel a distinct disconnect from the world, its inhabitants, due to my level of awareness and conscious observations? You feel that you're not easily able to find like-minded individuals? Well, I don't know that I'm any more aware and have more conscious observations than a lot of other people. I mean, sure, we can all think of maybe people who aren't that observant, but there are a lot of people who are observant. But yeah, I don't very easily feel like I fit in, and I don't very easily um, feel like I'm connected to other people. It's a very rare feeling for me, for sure. And I don't know how to change that. It just is how it is. Um, I wouldn't necessarily ascribe that to any increased positive capacity that I have that other people don't have or something. It's just more like, uh, it's something else. It's just more like I'm different enough from most people, just in terms of being different personality wise, not in a positive or negative way, but just unusual, such that it's just hard for me to feel close to people. And part of that is my personality, um, employing judgment and being careful, right? Part of that is because I'm applying judgment to the question. I mean, at a very deeply subliminal level, but I'm applying judgment to the question of like what happens when I spend a lot of time in my life hanging out with this person. And the answer is, you know, some people really just enjoy spending time with anyone, right? Or with a lot of people. And I'm not that way. I guess I would say it that way. So, I don't know. It's hard to summarize. Have you tried making a VR version of The Witness? We did have a VR prototype, but we haven't really done it lately. Now that GPUs are really fast, it might make more sense. It's just because we do water reflections and they're necessary for gameplay and stuff. We have to render the scene more times than a regular VR game would have to. And we have to have a very far view distance and all these things that make rendering slower, and that's bad for VR frame rate. But at this point, it might work better. Do I know my big 5 personality traits? No, I don't actually. I have never taken one of those tests. How many hours do I code per day? It varies based on the day. I don't have a regular. Do I have a name for the game engine? No, we're just making the game. Do I know my IQ? Yeah. I mean, I've taken 2 IQ tests in my life. One was in the 5th grade, so that was pretty young. And one was in college. I didn't know what Scientology was, and they had an IQ test. That's how they get people in the door. So I went and took the Scientology IQ test, and I scored about the same on both tests within 2 points. So it's probably relatively accurate, although there's some added details about the Scientology one that were interesting. I took the Mensa test as well, but they don't give you your score. They just let you in or don't. And I fucked up something pretty bad on the Mensa test, and I still got in, so that was fine. IQ 0 to 10 significant figures. Approximate time interval for the Sokoban game release. I honestly don't know. We're trying to make it as quickly as we can, but we're also doing some other things at the same time. Like the whole team isn't on this game, and we're building a programming language also, and we're using the language, or we're using the game to vet the language, which implies that I go and modify the language sometimes to make the game process better. So it's a little bit of a nonlinear process, and we just have to see how long it takes. Scientology people are in the SF subway system. I didn't know that. I don't ever take the BART here. So, yeah. What advice would you give to somebody aiming to make a witness-like game to constrain scope and prevent development costs from getting too insane? I don't know. We didn't do that on the Witness. Um, Instead of constraining scope, I said let's just let the game be as big as it wants to be, and that's part of what made it a good game. Um, so yeah. Am I ever going to write the compiler in its own language? Uh, Someday, probably, but it's just not a productive thing to do in the short term. I know you guys were looking for a 3D animator or something a while back. Would there be any more hires in the foreseeable future? I'm not sure. Um, we definitely think about hiring people now and again, but we're not trying to grow really fast because, man, games are expensive to make, and the more people we hire, the more expensive they are. So we're not clamoring to hire significant numbers of people right now. Were there any features that were painfully large outliers in terms of their cost to create versus the value they added to the game? Oh, yeah. I mean, how do you judge the value they added to the game, though? Right? Like the live action videos and like the ending sequence, the secret ending sequence and stuff took a lot of work, man. But and a small percentage of players play them, and they're a small percentage of time of the gameplay experience. But I thought that was really important. The whole secret ending sequence took a lot of work, actually, not just the video stuff. Would I consider moving out of the Bay Area to somewhere with lower cost of living if they kept things afloat longer? I would have to move the whole company to reduce cost of living, and a lot of people probably wouldn't want to move. And I don't know. Um, it would definitely keep things afloat longer because, we would have like half the burn rate if we lived in other places. It's crazy here. Would love to hear me talk about linear algebra and how important do I think a deep knowledge in this field is required, helpful for game programming and programming in general. It's just important for game programming. I don't know what else to say. Any advice for people getting into the industry? It seems like at large studios you would have very little input, while at smaller studios it will be harder to compete, like you said. Exactly. So I don't know. I don't know what to recommend. Is Tekla pronounced with a soft th or just a t sound? I say t. It's a Greek name originally, um, but there are versions of that name in in many languages and dialects in Europe, and so they often have their own opinion how to pronounce it. So there you go. Any plans to build any type of possible multiplayer games in the future, or staying in the single player space? We're single player for a while. I have ideas for multiplayer games, but not for a while. Move to the middle of the country. I hear you can just stick a flag in the ground and claim the land. Pretty much. It'd be a lot cheaper. All right, guys, it's 11. Clock just ticked over to 11. I'm tired. Thanks for coming by. We'll do another gameplay stream someday soon. And yeah, thanks for visiting. Bye, everybody. That was long question and answers. The questions just started coming all of a sudden.